I have no idea. Grossi Posse Packer Nation. Welcome to an episode of Packcast, the podcast where you don't, I do Pakistan, but it sure does help. I'm your host, Tom. No, seriously, I have no idea what the hell is going on in the NFL, Grossi. And today, we are going to attempt, and emphasis on the word attempt, to rank the top 10 teams heading into week 6 of this NFL season. And folks, I thought that the first month was pretty crazy in the NFL season, but it's September, right? These teams are still trying to establish their identity. They're getting back into football shape. The refs are throwing every flag possible because they're also getting into football shape. So you're going to expect some craziness along the way. And we have seen some craziness over this past month. But this past Sunday, holy God, we saw one of the biggest shifts in terms of the NFL landscape, in terms of upsets, in terms of comebacks. And ultimately, we're sitting here on Tuesday trying to rank these top 10 teams, and I have no idea anymore. There's going to be teams that are going to be in these power rankings that haven't been on the entire season. There's a brand new number 1 team, and all this shaking up means that, yes, it is a whole lot of fun to watch, but 2, this makes this really damn difficult. So feel free to be angry. So starting off, before we get to the top 10, we gotta do some honorable mentions. And the first honorable mention is gonna be the Seattle Seahawks. The Seahawks, you are this close to being in the top 10. I know we've been teasing it week after week after week, and they almost were able to get it if it wasn't for a Sam Darnold interception. But to be completely honest with you, you can't blame Sam Darnold for the loss this past Sunday against the Buccaneers, because Sam Darnold, he balled out. That offense was looking phenomenal against Tampa Bay, and they nearly won that football game. And the Buccaneers, they're a really damn good team. And taking a look at the defense, they are banged up right now, and unfortunately, when they needed the defense the most, they let them down, and ultimately Seattle lost that game. However, I still think it's safe to say that Seattle is a contender this year. I think they could definitely make the playoffs as long as that offense keeps on clicking. Sam Darnold is balling out, and if that defense gets a bit healthier, who knows? Seattle might still even win the division. We're only in week 6. But as of right now, Seattle gets a very strong honorable mention and is still one step closer to getting into the top 10. Our second honorable mention, we gotta shout out the returning Jaden Daniels and the Washington Commanders. The Commanders were able to take care of business against the battered Chargers this past week. The Chargers, who are no longer in the top 10, and it's not even their fault. They just have a litany of injuries, and now Omarion Hampton's going to be out for a few weeks. It's just a tough time to be a Chargers fan. But the good news is their fan base is kind of used to it. But for the Commanders, it's been an up and down start to the season. Jaden Daniels getting injured, Scary Terry getting injured. And while Scary Terry didn't return this past week, Jaden Daniels looked pretty good. But it was all about Wild Bill running all over the Chargers. And so heading deeper into October, I'm curious to see what the Commanders are going to look like once they get fully healthy. But right now, the Commanders deserve some credit for knocking off the Chargers. We'll see if they can get into the top 10 as the weeks follow. But as of right now, Wildflower's pretty happy. And then finally, another honorable mention. You gotta shout out the Houston Texans, who looked like they were the Strouds this past weekend as they obliterated the Baltimore Ravens. And the Texans are a very curious team. They obviously have a very good defense, but their Achilles heel has been their offensive line and their offense as a whole. CJ Stroud has been struggling this season. The offensive line can't block for diddly squat. But this past Sunday, going up against a Lamar Jackson-less Ravens, they were able to take care of business in a major way. They were able to load on the points. And when you take a look at the AFC South, with the Jaguars winning and the Colts continuing to win, it looks like the AFC South is starting to become a little bit more competitive. I'm not willing to put the Texans in the top 10 as of right now because I want to see some more consistency on that offense. But right now for the Texans, I just wanted to see some proof of life. They showed it this past Sunday. Now let's see if they can build upon it. And so, starting off with number 10, you got the New England Patriots. The Patriots! Oh, what a game on Sunday night. That first half was ugly. You had penalties, mostly on the Bills. You had turnovers, and ultimately, there was no touchdowns to be scored in that first half. until the Patriots really started to get their offense going and ultimately winning with a game-winning field goal on Sunday night against the Bills. And for the Patriots, you got to give them a ton of credit. Yes, they beat up on the Panthers the previous week, and I gave them credit for scoring over 40 points because it felt like it's been a while since we saw that Patriots offense be so explosive. But this week, to go into Buffalo in primetime, the return of Stephon Diggs to Buffalo, yeah, Drake May looked really damn good. And I think it's safe to say the Patriots found their guy.
I'm the guy. The real guy.
Now he's definitely the guy.
And for the Patriots, this is the best case scenario through the first 5 weeks because the big questions were, okay, do they have an offensive line? They obviously go out and draft an offensive lineman very early in the draft. On top of that, do they have wide receivers to throw to? And is Drake May their guy? And now through the first 5 weeks, Drake May has impressed from week to week. It looks like that offense is progressing. That defense continues to remain pretty damn good. And ultimately, being able to knock down a division rival, the Patriots deserve a ton of credit here. They seem like a scrappy team. Drake May was dropping dimes on Sunday. Stephon Diggs had a phenomenal game, and they were able to battle back through some penalties and some bad turnovers and still win that game against the Bills. And so because of that, the Patriots, you make it into the top 10, your 2025 debut. Let's see how high you can climb. Number 9. You got the Denver Broncos. The Broncos pulling off the unexpected and giving the Philadelphia Eagles their first loss of the season. And for the first 3 quarters, that offense did not look good at all. They couldn't move the ball. They were just scoring a field goal, and it looked like it was going to be a long day for that Broncos offense. But then the fourth quarter happened. Bo Nix deserves a ton of credit for that fourth quarter. And yes, there's some controversy with the flags or non-flags, but you got to give some credit to Bo Nix because he was able to stick with the game and ultimately delivered some clutch performances and allowed them to get a lead and ultimately win that game. On top of that, you have to shout out that Broncos defense, which was sensational. Besides some hiccups in the pass defense, they did really well on Sunday, not only keeping the Broncos within that game, but also Nick Bonito. Holy God, he's putting some fear into opposing QBs.
And you know what he does next?
What?
You really want to know?
What does he do?
He gets you!
And Nick Bonito has been on a tear this entire season. He's playing like one of the best defensive players in the NFL as of right now. And for the Broncos, they're in a curious position. They beat up on the Bengals last week, and we kind of know that they have a very good defense. Their 2 losses come to the Colts and the Chargers, who had game-winning field goals against them, and their defense is going to keep them in a ton of games. On top of that, they have a few easier opponents coming up these next few weeks, so this is a nice opportunity for them to build a divisional lead. But the real question mark is going to come down to that offense. They were able to establish the run for the second week now. J.K. Dobbins delivering a great performance, and if they're able to lean on a run game and Bo Nix is not turning the ball over, this offense could be something here. And while they definitely don't seem like world enders or a team that's going to score 40 points, their defense doesn't force them to. And for the Eagles, they allowed the Broncos to hang around, and ultimately it cost them. And so for the Broncos, welcome to the top 10. You knocked off the last undefeated team in the NFC, and so it is well deserved. Number 8. You got the Green Bay mother-loving Packers. And you might say, Tom,
How the heck can the Packers be in the top 10? They didn't even play last week.
well, let me tell you, because the Packers, they wound up benefiting from this past week. Yes, the Lions won, and yes, the Vikings beat the Cleveland Browns. Trust me, I've been hearing all about it. And Cleveland, I gotta say, we gave you your first win, and you couldn't beat the Lions and Vikings for us?
I ask you for one thing. One simple thing.
But the Packers got even better during the bye week because they were actually able to get healthy. Looking at who's practicing, you got Aaron Banks, Zach Tom back for that offensive line, which has been struggling over these past couple weeks. And on top of that, Christian Watson returning to practice less than 300 days after a catastrophic injury. That is phenomenal to see. And Christian Watson, when he was on the field for the Packers offense last year, that offense was soaring. And so while they're still missing Devontae Wyatt in practice, hopefully he's going to be able to go later this week. The Packers are in a good position here. You look at the Eagles losing their first game against a team that not a lot of people expected them to lose against. And on top of that, it just feels like the NFC is wide open. Yes, the Lions won again and are leading in the NFC North, but considering the Packers already have a win over the Lions and they're getting healthier after the bye, things are looking pretty good for Green Bay. But I'm putting the Packers in the top 10 because I think the overall context of the NFC matters here. And I think considering you're having some powerhouse teams either not blow out certain teams, looking at you Lions, or undefeated teams losing against the Broncos, I think this conference is wide open and the Packers are one of the better teams in the NFL. Jordan Love is having a sensational season at QB, and the Packers are taking on the Bengals this upcoming Sunday, which hopefully should be an easy win. But ultimately for the Packers, I think they're just in really good shape coming out of the bye. They're getting healthier, and we'll see if they can take care of the kitty cats on Sunday. Number 7, you got the Pittsburgh Steelers. That's right, back-to-back teams who are on a bye getting into the top 10. Why the Steelers getting into the top 10? Well, let's talk about it. The Steelers, they had the week off, and they got to watch the rest of the AFC North lose.
Yeah. Get her. This is the life.
It's true. If there was a team that benefited the most from a bye week, it is the Pittsburgh Steelers. They did literally nothing, and their division got worse, and their standings got better. The Steelers are sitting comfortably atop the AFC North, and the reason I'm putting them at number 7, even ahead of the Packers right now, is because of their division. Not only do they have that comfortable lead, but the rest of their division is a mess. The Cleveland Browns, while Dylan Gabriel and Judkins are looking good, their offense is still developing. The Baltimore Ravens are a train wreck right now. Their defense is atrocious and injured, and their offense is not doing well and is also injured. And then you have the Cincinnati Bengals who, yeah, you don't really need to say much about them. And so the Steelers with Aaron Rodgers, even though the way that they're winning games is not blowing anybody out of the water, they are playing consistent football. Their run game looked really good the last time they played, even without Jalen Warren, and their defense looked good. And so just because of the situation that they're in, I'm putting the Steelers at number 7. They're leading their division, and honestly, who knows? They might have this thing wrapped up by week 12. Number 6, you got the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Jaguars, whoo, pulling off one of the biggest upsets of the season, defeating the Kansas City Chiefs. And I just gotta say, I put the Jaguars in the top 10 last week, and I saw some comments. I saw the chirping of,
The Jaguars don't deserve to be in here.
well, who's laughing now? Trevor frackin' Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence had a really good game this past Monday night, had to recover from a couple of turnovers. One was a fumble trying to reach it over the goal line, but Nick Bolton just made a really good defensive play. And the second one was an interception, which should have been defensive pass interference, but he was able to rebound and have that phenomenal, what would be game-winning drive. And that Trevor Lawrence TD run, that's going to have Jaguars fans feeling good all week.
I get knocked down. I get knocked down again. You're never gonna knock me down.
Whoa, party house.
And we've been talking about the Jaguars a good amount this season. Their defense has definitely improved from last year, and their offense seemed to have found their run game with Travis Etienne, even though Trevor Lawrence was their leading rusher on Monday night. But ultimately, they were able to win a gritty game against a good Chiefs team, and now the Jaguars are sitting pretty behind the Colts in the AFC South, which, man, who would have freaking expected that after 6 weeks, that you have the Jaguars and Colts sitting near the top of the AFC? But that's what this NFL season is. And so because of that, the Jaguars deserve a top 10 spot. They're moving on up, almost in the top 5. Will they be able to hold on to it? Who knows? But Jaguars fans, hold on to this feeling, because it's a good one. Number 5, you got the Indianapolis Colts. The Colts. Oh boy, Indiana Jones was kicking some Raider ass this past Sunday. And the Colts, while the Raiders are definitely not a good football team, I actually feel even better about them after this past week. Yes, they have a loss in the books against the Rams, who had a really bad loss against the 49ers this past Thursday. But the Colts have been one of, if not the most consistent team in the AFC through these first 5 weeks. Their defense is playing well. Indiana Jones is not turning the ball over. He's playing efficient football. And on top of that, Jonathan Taylor is having an excellent season. And we've been talking about this for the past month. When Daniel Jones can rely on a good running back like Saquon Barkley that one season, look at the results. They're usually pretty good. And right now, the Colts are sitting atop the AFC South with the Jaguars trailing them. The Texans, while they did have a dominant performance against the Ravens, the Colts are just playing their game. And if they're able to remain consistent, we might be talking about Indianapolis as potential playoff contenders. So considering before the season, we were talking about the Colts being one of the worst teams in the league, this has been one hell of a turnaround. I think the Colts have proven that they are for real, And right now, they find themselves in the top 5. Number 4, you got the Buffalo Bills. The Bills tumbling just a couple spots this week after they lost to the Patriots, which is now their second straight loss to New England, who may have just found their new Tom Brady.
No. Wait.
But let's talk about the Buffalo Bills because it was an ugly night on Sunday. Let's talk about that first half. One, that offense only scored 3 points, which is always going to be a problem. You got to give props to the Patriots because they have a good defense. But the amount of turnovers and the amount of fracking penalties in the first half alone, there was like 10 penalties on the Bills before they even got into the second half. On top of that, James Cook really couldn't get it going this past Sunday, and he has been one of the main reasons why they've been so successful the past 2 weeks. And ultimately, heading into that second half, Josh Allen turned the ball over, they continued to make mistakes, and ultimately, they lost that game. And for the Bills defense, while I know they have been banged up, that has been the major question mark for them this season, suffering their first loss. And while they were able to get away with it against some other teams, their offense sputtered out, and ultimately, the Patriots were able to get that win. Now, I'm not insanely worried about the Buffalo Bills. You expect that defense is going to get healthier, and hopefully it's going to get better, but there definitely are some concerns. You take a look at some of the play calling, you definitely look at the lack of discipline with all of those penalties, and on top of that, the turnovers. It's just going to create a formula where it's going to be very difficult to win that game. And the Bills are going to have to rebound because they find themselves in prime time once again on Monday night against the Atlanta Falcons, who are going to be coming off of a bye. John Robinson and Tyler Algier might be running all over this Buffalo defense, and so that is something definitely to keep an eye on. But for right now, I'm not panicking about the Bills in any way, shape, or form. It was an ugly performance on Sunday night, a well-deserved victory for the Patriots, and for the Bills, they just got to clean things up, and I think they'll be just fine. Number 3, you got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Buccaneers. Good God, man. How many heart palpitations are you going to put your fan base through? Because the Buccaneers keep on getting those wins in the final minutes of the fourth quarter. Baker frackin' Mayfield deserves a ton of credit. He put on a show this past Sunday to get a hard-fought win against his former Panthers teammate.
I have to beat him. I have to.
And the Buccaneers are another team. You have concerns about their defense, but their offense is just so much fun to watch. Baker, talk about clutch QBs. He has to be ranking at the very top this season. Ibuka just looks like a phenomenal wide receiver. We talked about him being so NFL ready coming out of the draft. That has been proven week after week after week. And whether it's Chris Godwin on the field or Mike Evans on the field, Ibuka has really unlocked this offense, even when they don't have Bucky Irving to rely on in the ground game. And so while the Buccaneers are not winning pretty by any stretch, they are continuing to win. They nearly knocked off the Philadelphia Eagles, which is their only loss of the season, and going into Seattle, which is a tough place to play, knocking off the Seahawks, who are playing pretty damn well this season. They deserve a ton of credit. And again, this is just what good teams do. They find ways to win. And while it does continue to be very stressful for Buccaneers fans, they deserve a top 3 spot in my opinion, and that is why they are sitting at number 3. But maybe they could just have like one less stressful week. Just saying. Number 2, you got the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles. Oh boy, that passing game was finally looking great, but then they just let it all slip away.
You were dead and buried, and I had to watch this asshole bring you back.
Let's talk about the Philadelphia Eagles because their fans cannot be happy this upcoming week. Yes, they got their first loss out of the way, and maybe this is going to be a wake-up call. But talking about that offense, Saquon Barkley has not had that dominant performance on the ground. However, he did make an impact in the passing game, catching that long touchdown pass. And unfortunately for the Eagles, it just seems like that offense has not gotten into that second gear. Jalen Hurts looked pretty damn good this past Sunday, going up against a tough Broncos defense. And while they weren't able to run the ball, Devontae Smith was getting more targets, and it seemed like, okay, maybe they're going to start getting things going. Unfortunately, they had a couple drives in a row which went for negative yards. Patullo is getting a ton of heat as the offensive coordinator for the Eagles, as he has not looked impressive throughout these first 5 weeks. And taking a look at the defense, they were playing well, and unfortunately at the very end in that fourth quarter, that's when things all fell apart. And so for the Eagles, I still think they are a very good team. I still think they're one of the teams to beat in the NFC, but there are some concerns here after the first 5 weeks. You look at that offense's efficiency, you look at the play calling, the lack of ground game. A.J. Brown, the biggest play he is making is knocking the ball away from Devontae Smith at the very end in that Hail Mary attempt. And yeah, you have some issues that are trying to be sorted out in Philadelphia. The good news, they were in this position last year in which folks were calling for Nick Sirianni to be fired, and then they won the freaking Super Bowl. And so they have plenty of time and some runway to get better as the season progresses. They only have one loss under their belt, and I know there's been some close games, but the world is not ending for the Philadelphia Eagles right now. So unfortunately for Philly fans, it was a rough weekend because their baseball team and also their football team suffered some losses. But ultimately, you're hoping that the Eagles find a way to bounce back. And until then, you could just keep calling to fire Patullo. Which brings us to our number one spot. You got the Detroit Lions. Yep, here we are. The Lions are your new number one team in the power rankings, and they're another team. Let's just be very honest. There are some questions. You look at that secondary, which is banged up right now and is not playing its best football. But other than that, they are playing consistent football. I know that there are plenty of Lions fans who are upset that they didn't blow out the Bengals, that they didn't put 50 on them, but they put together a really good three-quarter performance. Of course, they allowed the Bengals to score some points in the fourth quarter, but I'm not really worried about that because they still had that game well in hand. And why are the Lions at number one? You talk about their offense, whether it's Montgomery throwing touchdowns or Jared Goff throwing touchdowns, they seem to be just fine. On top of that, their ground game is phenomenal with Gibbs and Monty. They have a multitude of weapons. Tesla actually learned how to catch with two hands instead of just one. And of course, the Sun God is having a phenomenal season. Their pass rush continues to be effective, and they are sitting pretty atop the NFC North. So with their loss to the Green Bay Packers being far in the rearview mirror because they have looked like a very different team for the past few weeks since that week one loss, the Lions are still one of the teams to beat not only in the NFC North, but in the NFC as a whole. It looks like their offense has found a groove with their new offensive coordinator. Their defense, besides their secondary woes, is still playing well. And for Lions fans, while these power rankings are pretty much meaningless, I'm sure their fans are happy to see their team atop them once again.
Well, I'm the best there is, plain and simple. I mean, I wake up in the morning, I piss excellence. If you ain't first, you're last. You know?
So to recap, at number one, you got the Lions, 2 Eagles, 3 Buccaneers, 4 Bills, 5 Colts, 6 Jaguars, 7 Steelers, 8 Packers, 9 Broncos, and 10 Patriots. But let me know what you think down in the comments below. Who should be on this list? Who should be off of it? It was a crazy, crazy week in the NFL, and I'm sure these power rankings are just going to get even nuttier. But let me know what you think. You know, I saw me at TomGrossiComedy.com, and a big shout and thank you to all the Patreon and YouTube members for supporting this channel. And thank you so much for watching. I'm Tom Grossi, and as always, go Pack Go.